thank you for that this morning. That was new to me, so I have to. Oh, was it? No, oh, okay. Well, when you said my all, I had a different one in mind, so maybe that's what you were thinking of. But it's good practice, because in heaven we will sing a new song, one we've not sung before. So I guess it's used to, here we realize we're human, and there, when God gives us this new song to sing, we'll be right spot on. Happy Father's Day again to everybody. I like what Debbie said there. We have examples in the Bible of good fathers and bad fathers. There isn't a chapter or verse you go to or a book you go to that says, here's what lines out to be the perfect father. You have to see who God is and how He behaves to us. And that is an example of our perfect father. And so we try to mimic Him as fathers. And then you look through the Bible, and there's a lot of fathers who weren't so good. I hate it. She called me and said she was going to be here, so I didn't know she was going to be here for the preaching part, so I'm glad to have it. But you look at David. David's a great man of God, and he was not so great of a father. Jacob, who was the father of Israel, had lots of sons. The tribes of Israel are named after his sons. He wasn't such a good father. He kind of played favorites and called, all sorts of stuff went on. So none of us today are going to be perfect fathers or perfect men, which is kind of the direction I'm going in this morning. It's not just fatherhood, but what is manhood? Men and women are different. Hopefully that's not a revelation to anybody. But I know a few folks that I would call acquaintances. I don't know if they're really close friends. But if I said that, they probably would not want to be my friend or acquaintance anymore. And this is folks that live in Robinson. But marketers know that people are different. I grabbed a catalog that had Paula's name on it that came to our house. And I opened it up, and there were 77 pages dedicated to women's clothing. How many pages do you want to guess are dedicated to men's clothing?
10.
You're closer. I saw a 2, the 10, and the 5. 7 pages. Marketers realize that women are more interested in clothing than men are. For the women, it talked about slender, beautiful, innovative, shift in pattern, which I don't even know what that means or do I care. For men, it said casual. It said no iron. That's the things that they figured were important to guys. So they recognize that there's a difference. Doctors know that there's a difference. There's some doctors that I've only been to with my wife when we were getting ready to have a baby. And I will never go to them for personal care because I don't have the same things they're looking at, is what Paula does. Nor do, there are some things that I have that you don't. And so we go to different doctors. And doctors, even things that they thought, hey, men and women both have hearts, both have heart attacks. So those are the same. And Joey may be able to testify to this, having had some heart issues. But even the way they have heart attacks are different. And I may get this wrong, but guys are usually likely to survive their first heart attack. Women are not. Guys get all the classic symptoms of pain here, radiating pain, and pain there. Women, it's hard to tell. It could be a back pain. It could be, whatever. So medically, we are different. And scientifically, they used to know that we were different. He's been in the news here lately. In 1993, on Bill Nye, the Science Guy show, which I enjoyed watching when it was on, he had a little segment on probability where he's talking about, here's what men and women are. Women have 2 X chromosomes, or females have 2 X chromosomes. Males have an X and a Y. There's a 50-50 chance of you being born a male or a female. The mother has an X chromosome, and she gives that. The father has an X or a Y, and he gives that. And the resulting combination is either male or female. Then as Bill Nye, the science guy, got smarter, I guess, and changed the show to Bill Nye Saves the World, which is his show now, he said that sex is not or gender is not a one or the other, it's a continuum of, let's see, what do you call it here? Not just chromosomes, it's a continuum of sex, gender, expression, and attraction. This is what someone who he's an engineer, so he can't be a scientist, right? This is what someone who calls himself a scientist says, is that he no longer understands. He's confused now. It used to be X and Y's, or X's and X's, and that made male and female. But now he's not too sure. And all this may have very little to do with the rest of the message, but only to introduce that there is confusion out there. God is not the author of confusion. When God created, it said God created male and female. Male and female created he them. So God was not ambiguous. If there's anything else that happens along after that, it's a creation of man. And it is confusion. But God, again, God is not the author of confusion. He's the author of joy and peace and love. There is an attack on men, on males. There's a friend of ours from the county here who went to Indiana State, so not far away. And there's kind of indoctrination classes of how men are the ruination of the world. White males especially. Religious white males are awful. And that's what our state money helps cover, is classes that tell kids that men are bad. And that, if we want to know what the man of God is, I'm just telling you, you're probably not going to find it out in the world. They're going to tell you a perverted view of who the man of God is, of what men should be. So if we want to find out who men are and what they should be, we should go to what God says, and that's in the Bible. And again, it'd be nice to just go to some book, in some chapter, and read some verses and say, this is what a man is supposed to be. That'd make it real simple. But it's more by example. And so the example I picked today is Caleb. Someone that probably everybody's heard his name, but really he's kind of like Joseph. Jesus is his father. There's not a whole lot written about Caleb. The first time we see him, he is one of the 12 spies sent into the Promised Land to view what they're supposed to possess. Moses tells them, and I'll go ahead and flip there because it's a pretty good description of what they're supposed to do. I thought I wrote this down, so we'll have to find it. I think it's in Numbers. If anybody knows right off, go ahead and help me. Because I was figuring surely I wrote that down someplace, but I didn't. It's on the left side of the page. Numbers 13. So I'm going to put a bookmark there because I have to go back. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Send thou men, that they may search the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel. Of every tribe of their fathers shall you send a man, every one a ruler among them. And Moses commanded them as God had said. And one of the key phrases there is, which I give unto the children of Israel. It's a done deal. God has given them this land. He just says, go send people to spy it out and see what it is. So Moses gets to them in verse 17 of chapter 13 in Numbers. And he tells them, here's your job. Go see the land, what it is, and the people that dwell therein, whether they are strong or weak, few or many. And the land, and what the land is that they dwell in, whether it's good or bad, and the cities that they dwell in, whether in tents or strongholds, and what the land is, whether it's fat or lean, whether there be wood therein or not. And be of good courage, bringeth the fruit of the land, because now is the time of grapes, the first ripe grapes. So they went up. So their instructions were very clear. Go look at the land and tell us what it is. Is it good land? Is it bad land? Are there lots of people, a few people? Are the cities are there big cities with walls, or are there tents? And so Caleb goes up and does that with all the other 12. And after 40 days, which 40 days happens a lot, it happened with the law, it happened with the viewing of the land, and then the curse that they get to wander is for 40 years, just as it was with 40 days. And let's see, I'm going to get this over here first, so I might remember to use it. So I'll see if there's somebody, I may need somebody to help me out here to demonstrate something. So they got done wandering in the land, and they told him and said, we came into the land that you sent us, and surely it flows with milk and honey. So they fulfilled some of their obligations. And this is the fruit in it. They had carried grapes, and they had to carry it between them. It was such a big bunch of grapes that it took 2 of them to carry it. But the people are strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and great. Big walls, big cities, big walls. Moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. So I'm going to pause there. That's why the chair's here. And I'll pick on Gabe, since he's right there at the edge. He can come up here. How many of you know who the children of Anak were? You just went right there.
Giants were.
They were giants, yeah. They were probably the ancestors for Goliath that David ends up killing, which is kind of ironic that David ends up killing him. But the Anaks, if they saw me do this work, I'd be in big trouble. We're big people. And the Israelites were just kind of average. So when they went to spy out the land, this is what they saw. Do I kind of look tall to you when I stand on a chair like that? Is it kind of intimidating to have somebody that tall? Yeah. Now if I stand on the ground who's that much taller than you, it'd be really intimidating, wouldn't it? So this is what they saw. They saw people that were big. And they felt like little grasshoppers among them. Thank you. And the Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, and Hittites and Jebusites. The Jebusites will be kind of important. And the Amorites dwell in the mountains. And the Canaanites dwell by the sea, by the coast of Jordan. So they have told them all these things. Hey, it's a great land, but boy, there's trouble. And Caleb got the people quiet before Moses and said, let's go up now and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. He wasn't worried that there was giants. He wasn't worried that there was walled cities, because Moses had told them, go get this land. Look at it and tell the people what you're going to get, and bring word back that this is what you're going to get. But the people who went up with him said, we can't do it. They're stronger than we are. And they brought an evil report of the land. They started lying. It's like, well, that's nice, but it's a lot worse than it is nice. And so you know the story at that point. The people rebelled. The next day, after some of them died, they said, well, yeah, maybe we will go across. And God said, no, you're going to wander till every last one of you all who are 40 years old and older are dead, because you would not go in and possess the land I was going to give you. So that's a little bit of Caleb's background. And now we're going to fast forward later in life and read about it in Joshua chapter 15. But before we do, let's have a prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for this morning to come before you and preach your word. Father, we pray that you would bring your word out in all that it is to us, that we can see the character of the people that serve you, and that our character can match and exceed those because we have your Spirit dwelling in us. Father, I fail you many times, and I don't live up to the expectations that you have called me to live to as a man of God. I pray that you forgive me for those things and help me to live out a way, a life, as your servants have, that change the world because we are living according to your way and not our own. I thank you for each one that's here this morning, and bless them. Help us to be a blessing to you. Be with the requests that have been made, whether publicly or in our hearts. Father, each one has come with trouble and trials, pains, victories. Father, we praise you for the victories, and Father, we ask for your strength to walk through the trials and to face the things that you give us with joy and peace. We ask these things in Christ's name. Amen. So we're going to start reading, not the whole chapter of 14, but starting out first with verses 6 and the first part of 7 of Joshua chapter 14. This is 45 years after Caleb's first entering into the Promised Land. He's been in the Promised Land now about 5 years, and he's been fighting battles with all the other tribes. When they came into the land, they came in on the, make sure I say this right, on the east side. Some of the tribes were going to stay there. They let them stay. They took the warriors and crossed over the Jordan River, and they started fighting on the west side of Jordan, trying to capture the lands there. And things have gone well. They've had some successes. They've had some failures. It's nearing the end of the battle. There's just a few select areas to conquer. And Caleb comes to Joshua and says, "Then the children of Judah, which he was a part of the tribe, came to Joshua in Gilgal. And Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, said to him, 'You know the thing that the Lord said unto Moses, the man of God, concerning me and you in Kadesh Barnea,'" which is where they had stopped to send the spies over. That's as close as some of them got to the Promised Land. Then they had to go back into the wilderness. "40 years old was I when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land." So he's giving a little bit of his history. He's saying that I was 40 years old when I did this. And Moses, the man of God, sent me out to do this job. So already, this is the things God's word tells you, maybe not in your face, but when you read it, you understand a little bit about the person that's writing about. The whole tribe of Judah came up, and probably not every single one of them, but the representatives of the tribe of Judah come up to Joshua. And who is the head of that group? Caleb. And he comes to talk to Joshua, God's anointed leader of Israel. And he comes to him. They were the only two who had followed God wholly. But he comes to Joshua not as an equal, but to Joshua as the leader. And that tells us those three things: that he was popular among his family, among his clan. He recognized authority, and he was friends, although submissive to the authorities that be. And that tells us that the person, a man, who is following God, who wholly commits himself to God, and Caleb will say this a time or two, the man who wholly commits himself to God will have good relationships with those around him. And your relationships will demonstrate your relationship with God. In Proverbs 16:19 or 16:17, I'll flip over there real fast. And not speaking, I would have this right off the top of my head, but I've forgotten it. I wrote down the wrong verse even. It's 16:7. It says, "When a man's ways please the Lord, he makes even his enemies to be at peace with him." So by wholly committing himself to the Lord, by us wholly committing ourselves to the Lord, our relationships are established. And this is more of I don't know if I'll call it the right thing, but more of a propositional statement than a principle statement. And by that I mean, if it says, if you believe on the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, you will be saved. That is fact, unchangeable by man. If I say, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they were old, they won't depart from it, that's more of a propositional statement. Yeah, that happens most of the time, but sometimes it may not. So these things are more propositional. I'm sure you can find examples where folks have lived for God and bad things have happened. But this is the ideal. This is what we strive for. This is the ideal. It should be our relationship with God. So if we wholly commit ourselves to the Lord, the relationships will work themselves out. And where is the first place that relationships seem to fall apart? Where we live the most, and that's with our families. But Caleb, in following God, was still honored as the spokesman for the tribe of Judah. Caleb, though he had his own things to do, was friends with good people. He was friends with Joshua, the man of God. He was able to walk up to him. He had friends that were good friends. Joshua and he were both the only ones who obeyed God. And still, when he came up, he remembered that Moses was the leader, and now Joshua is the leader, so he approaches them with the right relationship. In Romans 12:18, it tells us, and this is our guiding principle in the New Testament, if it's possible, as much as lies within you, live peaceably with all men. And that's what Caleb had done with Israel. Caleb was a great fighter, and the enemies of Canaan he'd gone in and destroyed. But in his nation, he was almost as revered as Joshua, but yet he knew he was not the leader. He was a follower. Joshua was the leader. It wasn't all sunshine and roses for Caleb. We see some good things happening. We see some bad things happening in his life. He had to face opposition, sometimes among friends and family, and sometimes among enemies. But he had a resolve. He was a resolved person that in his resolve, it demonstrated his commitment and understanding of God. That's what we're going to talk about next, is a person who's wholly committed to God, is resolved to complete good things. In the second part of 7 and through verse 9, he says, "And I brought Moses' word again, as was in my heart. Nevertheless, my brethren that went up with me made the heart of the people melt. But I wholly followed the Lord my God. And Moses sware unto me that day, saying, Surely the land whereon your feet have trodden shall be your own inheritance, and your children's forever, because you," and this is Moses saying back to him, "you have wholly followed the Lord my God." Most everybody speaks what's on their heart. And some of you have probably heard that. I probably shouldn't say this, but has anybody ever heard that? Okay, and if they just stopped and said, "I probably shouldn't say this," that would reveal a lot more about their character than if they had gone on and said, "but," and finished off whatever statement it was. So people usually don't have a problem with speaking their hearts. And when they got back from the promised land, the people, all the spies, spoke their heart. There's giants in there, there's big cities, and we're like grasshoppers, and we're all going to die. And it broke the will and the heart of the people of Israel. But when a man wholly given to God speaks, it encourages the hearts of the people. When they speak their heart, people's lives are changed for the better. The other spies changed the people's hearts for the worse. They did not wholly follow God, so the people's hearts were turned away from God. But when a man who wholly follows God speaks his heart, people's lives are changed, people's hearts are changed for the better. He was resolved to follow God, and because he was resolved to follow God, when he spoke, godly things came out of his mouth. Nevertheless, he says, "My brethren that went up with me made the heart of the people melt, but I wholly followed the Lord my God." And we read briefly the intro there, in the intro, that when he went out, when they came back in, and they were talking to Moses, it was 10 to 2. He was outnumbered and could have just said, I hate to disagree with folks. I know all these guys. We went over there and we looked at this stuff together. People think I'm just nuts if I go against what they said, so I'll just do what they say. But he wholly followed God, and he could not do that. Sometimes if you are a man who wholly follows God, you don't have to stand in minority and say the things that God has said, even when your friends, your family around you are saying, he's a crazy man. You can listen to him and die tomorrow, or you can listen to us and live. Well, in the big scheme of things, the ones who did not follow God died, and he who followed God lived. Because he was resolved to do what God said. He said things from a God perspective. And he came to Moses, he came to Joshua and said, Moses swore that day, saying, the land that you have walked upon will be your inheritance and your children's inheritance. And although, or in addition maybe to Caleb being submissive to the authority that was there, Joshua, he also stood to authority and said, this is what the leader told me, and I'm holding you accountable for it. So a man of God, in his resolve, will submit to rightful authority. But he will also stand in front of authority and say, this is what has been said, so this needs to be done. And so his resolve, Caleb's resolve, was demonstrated in these three ways. When he spoke encouraging words that changed people's hearts for the better. He stood firm even in opposition, and he stood in front of authority and requested that things be done right, that promises be kept. And a person, a man who follows God, should have that same resolve. So that when we speak, people's hearts are changed for the better. When we stand on truth, though the world may disagree with us, we stand because God says to. And when things are said, we make sure that they get done. And then another thing that a man wholly given to the Lord has or you can tell someone's wholly given to the Lord is how they respond. Verses 10 through 12. And now, behold, the Lord has kept me alive, as he said, these 45 years, even since the Lord spake this word unto Moses, while the children of Israel wandered in the wilderness. And now, lo, I am this day 85 years old. As yet I am as strong this day as I was in the day that Moses sent me, as my strength was then, even so is my strength now. For war, both to go out and come in. Now therefore, give me this mountain, whereof the Lord spake that day. For thou hearkenest, thou listened, in that day how the Anakims, slipped in Star Wars there, Anakims were there. And that city, the cities were great and fenced. If so be that the Lord will be with me, then I shall drive them out, as the Lord has said. Caleb had some room to complain. He gave a good report. He was ready to go into the promised land that day. He came back, he said, look at the fruit. Yes, the cities are big. Yes, the people are big. But God's given it to us. Let's go. How many of you would have a good attitude, having done the right thing, the very thing God called you to do, but having to suffer for 40 years because of somebody else's mistake? How many of you would be excited about that? I did everything right, and those loons, those idiots, those whiners drove us back out to the wilderness because of their report. But he doesn't say that. He doesn't go into this tirade of how evil they were, because he's a man wholly committed to God. He doesn't whine. This is the lot that God has put before us. Yes, they sinned. Yes, I had to wait. That's done. I'm ready to move on. And this is a message to Baptists. How many Baptists have been wronged and are ready to move on? That happened to me, yeah, that was bad. But I'm going to hold on to it with my fist until the day I die. That is not a person wholly committed to God. That's a person wholly committed to themselves, and they will not have good relationships. They will not have a strong resolve in anything else other than hate. And they will not respond in the way that God has called them to respond. You know what's happened. That happened, but here I am today, and I'm as strong today as I was that day we walked here the first time. And you know what? I was 40 years old then. I'm 85 now. But I don't care. I can do it just as much then, now as I did then. How many of us say, well, that's something for the younger people to do? Does that sound like a person wholly committed to God? I don't care how old I am. God has said this is what's going to happen, and I'm going to work toward that. That sounds like somebody that has a good response to the situations that they're in. There is not a day that God releases you from your service to Him until you die. There is something for you to do, and guess what? It may be a bigger something than you thought it was to do. Then He says, this is what I want. There is a land where the Jebusites live, where the children of Anak live, that they're pretty big. They're like tall people, and they live in big fenced cities. If they just build it up with their hands, it's already more than I can climb over. And I'm 85 years old, but I tell you what I want, because it's a really good land. I want those mountains right there. And Joshua says, go do it. I don't care how old you are. God doesn't care how old you are. If you are wholly committed to Him, when He puts that challenge out in front of you, you say, I'm going to go do it. Because guess what gets to happen to the folks who say, oh, they're too big. It's too tough. I can't do it. They get to wander around in a meaningless existence for 40 years and die. God has called us to something more than that. He has called us to respond to obstacles by saying, I don't care. God has said, go, and so I'm going to go. And because this man of God was wholly committed to God, this is what happened. And Joshua blessed him and gave to Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, Hebron for an inheritance. Hebron therefore became the inheritance of Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, and to this day, because he wholly followed the Lord God of Israel. And that name of Hebron before was Kirjath Arba, which Arba was a great man among Anakims. Anakims were great, and the region was known as by their leader. But Caleb got rid of them. And the land had rest from war. Because of Caleb's resolve, because he wholly followed the Lord, the plans that God had for them to possess the land of Canaan were fulfilled. They had a job, took them about 5 years, and the last area they had to conquer was a mountainous area because it was hard to get into, a walled area with giants. And Caleb, with the blessing of God and the command of God, went out and did that. Because he was a man wholly committed to following the Lord gave him the desire of his heart. And that was that promised land around Jerusalem. Caleb didn't know this, but God knew this. Caleb was of the tribe of Judah. Why is it important that the tribe of Judah end up around Jerusalem and let's say maybe Bethlehem? Because sometime way in his future a baby was going to be born. And so Caleb didn't even know. All Caleb knew was God said to take this land and I'm going to take that spot and it's going to be good. But he was working out. A man who wholly follows the Lord is working out God's plan. And God's plans will succeed. If Caleb hadn't done it, somebody would have done it to get David there, to get Christ there. It would have happened. But Caleb gets the blessing of being the one, and he's not really like revered in all of biblical history. His wasn't the kingly line. It was picked from somebody else. He was great-great-great-uncle Caleb. But it was his efforts, his obedience that brought this all to pass. And when men follow the Lord wholly, the land will have rest. And if we look at our land, it is not a land of rest and peace. And that is probably because there's not men of God who wholly follow the Lord. And that's the climax, that's the invitation of the lesson today is, look at your life, and look around your life and say, how are my relationships? Is my family hold me in high esteem? Do I have friends that are good friends and not evil friends? When I speak, am I saying things that encourage and build people up and change lives for the better? Or when I say things, does it seem like it just makes things worse? Am I resolved to follow the Lord in everything He says, regardless of what happens around me? Even if people who are close friends who've worked beside me for 40 days or 40 years are going against me, will I still stand with Him and hold firm? Do I have the proper relationship with authority? Authority is ordained by God, and I must submit, but I must hold authority accountable. And then when things come our way, or when things have gone by the way, do we sit down and say, by God, I will not let this thing go from my life. I got to get vengeance. Already, you know you're wrong, because vengeance belongs to God. Commit it to Him and let it go. Or are you tired? Have you served? You think you've served enough and you're ready to quit, even though there's still some land to be conquered? Or are you ready, because you're wholly committed to God, to step up and say, I don't know how I'm going to do this exactly? Caleb didn't say that. He had lived long enough. He knew how he's going to do it by God's grace and by God's power. But do we sometimes lose track of that because we're maybe not wholly committed to God? And then, what's the end of our life going to be? Will we have fulfilled God's plan for us in the thing that He's called us to do? If we have, there's a reward for that. If we have not, then the land will remain in turmoil. Our lives will remain in turmoil, and we'll be wandering around looking for a purpose. Phyllis and Reddick will come up, and Cheryl gives an invitational hymn. It's not from good words, not from motivational speaking, but if the Spirit has used these words to challenge you this morning to look at your life and say, you know, it doesn't look like I'm living this committed, wholly following the Lord life, because when I look around, things aren't quite where I'd like for them to be. If you do all the right things, Caleb did all the right things, some bad things are still going to happen. He had to wander around with a bunch of whiners for 40 years. And that didn't rub off on him, because he didn't come back and say, Lord, look what you've done, and look where I am, and look at all these things. It happened, and it was in the past. If you want to commit to Him, to wholly follow Him, so when you look at your life, you can say, you know what, I didn't do everything that I should have done. I didn't follow the way I could have followed. But you know what, I have peace because I did what God told me to do. This would be a good time to come up and commit to Him for that. So if you would stand and turn to page 312.